Welcome to Toffee TV. We are continuing with our season review, breakdown. We are onto the defence. This should be interesting to see how we feel our defence has done this season, joined by Cam from TheMightyBlues as well. Me and Ped, the defence on the whole conceded less goals than we did last season, which is always good.
Yeah, funny, isn't it? Because when we played away most of the season, when we started the season, they were horrific. Conceding goals. As a team, we were conceding goals, weren't we? And then manager got it sorted in December, and obviously decided that we couldn't have attack and defence, so we just had defence. And it worked. And it's what really it got us. You know, it got us the points, the way we defended as a team away from home, and yeah. So as a whole, you'd probably say it done well. But then there are, you know, you can go into the finer details, and not everyone had a great season. But as a unit, once we got into December, I think it was probably the thing that got us most points.
Yeah, I think Pet's right, isn't he? Is that if you're breaking it down into areas of the team, which we will do, you do a defence and midfield and a forwards review, you'd say that the defence was probably the reason why Everton did have a good season.
Yeah, away from home, like you said, we were very solid for the majority of the season away from home. It's at home, certainly at the start of the season, we were scoring a lot of goals, but we were also leaking a lot of goals, and a decision had to be made then. And obviously we went into December, and Luca Dean picked up an injury, so we had that 4 centre-backs across the back line, and we were very, very solid. And Godfrey come in, and Mina and Keane had started well, and yeah, it's been up and down as the season as a whole, and as every other position in the squad. But again, like you said, away we were very, very solid, and we sort of did stop conceding and leaking all of the goals that we were leaking at the start of the season. But still, individual errors and individual mistakes led to us losing games that we really needed to win, and that we should have been winning if we wanted any aspirations of getting into Europe.
Particularly at home as well. It was where we found it, but obviously we became a defensive counter-attacking team, and that kind of got us through. Let's dig into it then. Let's begin with Jordan Pickford, goalkeeper, who didn't start the season very well, but finished it excellently. Played 34 games, started 34 of those games. 10 clean sheets in the end, 70% save accuracy, worked out 1.3 goals a game. That's probably been hammered with. There's 5 at Manchester City. Errors leading to goals 4. I must point out 2 of them were in the Fleetwood game in the league, Fleetwood Town in the League Cup, which he made 2 headers early on. But in general, I mean, how did you think Jordan Pickford did this season?
Horrendous for a large part of it, but then the last, probably from February onwards, has really sorted himself out. I think the last mistake of any note was in the Leicester game at home, which was January, was it? Was it January?
Late January, yeah.
So he really, obviously a lot of attention on him this season with the Van Dijk situation. Obviously which
didn't help him, did it?
They're still bleating about it now. And everything that followed, the media scrutiny and everything, just got more heightened. Then there was calls for him to lose his England place, and obviously didn't have a good time as a human being. And as I said, the last 3 or 4 months, he's just obviously worked at something to get his head on everything, not fall into the trap of whatever the situation was before that. And I think it's really helped him. And I think he's really got himself in the right place as a professional footballer and as a human. And I think it's you can see that now. The consistency's been there for the last few months of, what we've been sort of calling for a while is like, the problem. He's not a bad goalkeeper. He just couldn't focus during games of football. And obviously that's part of being a professional footballer, isn't it? You've got to block out whatever it is causing you problems. Now those problems might be exterior, it might be in here. I don't know. I can't say because I'm not Jordan Pickford. But whatever it is, he seems to have found a way to deal with it. Maybe it was growing his hair. I don't know. I don't
Seems
know.
to have helped.
I don't know, but
the psychologist seems to have helped.
He certainly seems to have turned the corner, and that's that's all you want. That's all we've been asking for. It's like anything, you got to recognise. I suppose it's like you got to recognise your own problem first.
Yeah.
And he definitely did have a problem, and everyone could see it. And he's, I remember going back to the Leicester game, talking about the time. Remember he flapped at a corner, and it was like when the ball came in, he wasn't ready. It was like he was almost thinking about what had happened beforehand. Whereas now it's like once that's gone, he's ready for the next thing, and long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, do you subscribe to that, Cammy? Obviously 10 clean sheets in the end is not a bad number, but he definitely got better as the season went on, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it's been a big season for Jordan Pickford, to be honest, because you think of most improved players and players that have improved throughout the course of the season, and Jordan Pickford's name is right at the top of that list. Obviously, you had the situation in October with the Merseyside derby, and the whole world, other than Evertonians, was against him, really. The media were wishing for him to fail. He was screaming his name for months and months on end, and then it stopped for a week period, and then the derby at Anfield was the week after, and then it come back. And he had a big responsibility to play in that Merseyside derby, and he silenced a lot of demons. I think it was almost like a full circle situation, from a derby a couple of years ago that we won't mention, where, he sort of, because he started his Everton career really well. I think he got Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, and then he had that game. It sort of went downhill, the inconsistency come in, the mistakes, the confidence, the moment, making stupid errors, and his concentration being off. And then he had this derby in February, and he was absolutely brilliant. 4 or 5 big saves, kept us in the game, ended up being a big reason as to why we won the game. And then since then, saved us in the Southampton game after it, saved us in the West Brom game, saved us against Arsenal a couple of weeks ago. He's been absolutely exceptional. And I agree with Peddy. He seems to have his concentration just seems to be so much better now. It's focus on what's happening rather than what's happened or what might happen. It's right, what have I got to do now? You said going the match the other day, there was only a couple of players who were screaming, and you could hear screaming, and Jordan Pickford was one of them. He seems to have grown up. He seems to have matured a little bit since certainly since that Merseyside derby in February. And I think the biggest compliment we can pay to him is we all sat here early on in the season and said we need a new goalkeeper in the summer, 100%. We need a new number one. Now we're sitting here saying, actually, we probably don't need a new number one. If you continue like that, he's more than good enough. I think the competition from Robin Olsen's done him well. But it's down to Jordan, and we say this about Dominic Calvert-Lewin. There's one reason Dominic Calvert-Lewin's as good as he is, and that's because of him. His work rate, his effort, his mentality, his attitude. Jordan's the same. There's a reason as to why he's become a better footballer, and it's because he's gone away and he's thought, right, I need to change something here, and I need to change it up, and he's done that. And I think recently he's been exceptional.
Yeah, totally agree. I think we just need him to be steady, don't we? If he's
steady,
then everyone else is calm, and we know he's a top keeper. And all that talk about whether he should be England's number one. There isn't a better goalie than English keepers. So, and Dean Henderson's proved that recently. You did mention Robin Olsen there. We mentioned them on the new signings video, but there's some basic stats from Robin Olsen. He's had 11 games that he started, 3 clean sheets, conceded 16. Although that is all competitions, and 4 of them were in the Spurs game. A 73.3% save rate, and Sweden's number one has come in and has pushed Pickford, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think he's done all right. I think he's just a bog standard number 2, isn't he? But the manager's put a lot more trust in him than any other manager's put trust in a number 2 over the last few years. Yeah. He's been willing to take Jordan Pickford out the firing line or whatever. And of course, Jordan Pickford had injuries as well this season, which was unusual. It's something we've not seen. Different injuries as well. So it was important that we had a good number 2, because beforehand, obviously, João Virginia got a game as well, didn't he? So it was important that we did have a good number 2 this year. It's something that we've bemoaned the last few years. Someone to put pressure on Jordan Pickford, and he certainly did it. And I think being a professional, being the country's number 1 as well, I think and he's had his injury problems as well, which is just bizarre.
Both out with the same injury,
which was just bizarre. So it was important, and it does show you the importance of having a good number 2, someone who will push the number 1 goalkeeper. And maybe this summer, we might even have a better number 2. He'll push him even harder, if reports are led to be, I believe. So I think it was a good move bringing him in.
definitely. Just very briefly, Olsen done well, hasn't he?
Yeah, I agree completely. I think, you mentioned Pickford. Jordan Pickford hadn't missed the Premier League game since he joined Everton Football Club before this season, and having somebody like a Robin Olsen, who is an international goalkeeper, big, tall goalkeeper, experienced, to come in and, almost for Carlo Ancelotti to say, well, look, if you're not doing it, I've got this lad who's going to come in, and he might be the best goalkeeper in the world, but he can do a job. He's not just there to fill a space on the bench who you look at and think he's no good. He can come in and he can play 2, 3, 4 games and he'll perform. He's done well when he's come in. He's made some mistakes, but he's done relatively well when he's been in there. So I think it's very important, certainly for Carlo Ancelotti, because he's mentioned before that he likes to rotate the goalkeepers exactly like he likes to rotate any other position on the pitch. So in order to do that, you'd need a good, solid number 2, and I think Robin Olsen's done that this season. Yeah,
definitely. Let's move on. Luca Dean, 36 games this season, started 35 of them. 7 assists, outstanding. 9 clean sheets when Luca's played. Interceptions per game, 1. Tackles per game's averaging 2.1. 2.4 clearances, and hasn't made a single error that has led to a goal, which is what you want from your defenders.
Yeah.
Luca Dean, another one who spent about 10 weeks out the side. It looked like it was going to be longer, but he worked hard, got his head down and come back quicker than what we all expected, and came back against Rotherham, didn't he, and had a little bit of a chasing for a bit because he looked knackered, but then obviously we played Wolves a few days later and he was brilliant. But what have you made of Luca's season? I think he's been a bit up and down as well. I think at times he's been exceptional, and then other times he's dipped a little bit. But
I think for his level, he has been up and down. I think he's had a solid season, but the 2 previous, obviously we've seen him chipping in with goals, left, right and centre. He hasn't scored a goal this season, so when we're not really a team, let's be honest, that you can afford to take goals out of. So when you take Luca Dean's 3 or 4 that he might get a season out of it, you're sort of thinking, well, he hasn't had as good of a season, but his assists there, tell that he's getting in the right areas, and also the amount of balls that he's putting in the box and chances that he's creating that aren't being converted because Dom's not in the right area or Richarlison isn't getting on the end of it. Like you said, I do think he's been up and down at times, and there's been times when he's just been absolutely run ragged by whoever's playing on the right wing for the opposition team, but he's also spent 2 or 3 months out injured and had to have surgery in the middle of a season. And I know we were playing Ben Godfrey at left back and he was absolutely brilliant, but it was quite evident that when Luca Dean become fit, it was you're going straight back in the team because you're the left back.
He's one of our most creative players.
And that's it. You take away his assists and who replaces that? Because Ben Godfrey's very good defensively, but he isn't doing anything going forward, and we can't afford to miss out on Luca Dean's forward play. So I think he's had a decent season. He could get better, and I'm sure he will get better, and hopefully he integrates more goals into next season. But he's been solid overall.
He's just his agent has just reminded us all that he's finished the year for the 3rd year running as the best left back statistically in the Premier League. So what have you made?
Well, he signed a new contract as well, which is important. Obviously, for it that will see him spend his his best years now at Everton.
Yeah.
He's settled. I think he's suffered from the way the team is set up.
Yeah.
Not having a right back that goes forward. Again, I really do believe that the way we played, that all changed the day Sheamus Coleman got an injury. I really do.
Yeah, because we were flying forward, weren't we?
And it's so much. We benefit so much from having 2 fullbacks who could go forward. And we've seen early on the way Hammers would get the ball and spray it left, and then you'd have Richarlison running off him, and he had options and he was throwing it in, and it worked a treat. And the minute that stopped, all the pressure went on Luca Dean in. And that makes it easier to defend, because if as a team, you've only got one out ball and it's Luca Dean, then you're just going to put 2 men on him. And I think that made the task really harder for him. Also, the change in Richarlison's position later on the season meant that he really didn't have anyone ahead of him. And he must have found that out, because he's a weird one, Luca Dean. He's deceivingly quick, but he's also not rapid. Yeah. So it's like he has to put every drop of effort into to get there a lot of the time. He's great at getting into positions.
Puts a lovely
ball, and we've seen that loads of times. I mean, the ball he put in for Gylfi Sigurdsson, like the likes of Leeds and things like that.
The derby at home to Dom.
He can put great passing, but I do think he suffered from us not having some cover at fullback and James Rodriguez not always being in the side as well.
Do you think he should take more of our free kicks around the box?
I think he should take all of our free kicks around the box. I think he should. I think he's got a wonderful left foot, and you know. Problem is, we're blessed with such a good free kick taker, Gylfi Sigurdsson. You know, he is one of the as the journalists and the commentators keep reminding us, he is one of the most prolific.
And someone on Twitter,
you know, one of the most prolific
free kick takers.
And don't get me wrong, Gylfi's great on corners and stuff, but free kicks, just leave them to Luca Dean. But it's been, as I say, you know, getting an injury like that during the season must be so traumatic. Going through an operation, recovering, he went back to France, I think, to recover. He really wanted to get back, but it must be hard. It must be hard because you do get back, and then you think, oh, I'm back, but it must take time.
And adrenaline gets you through the first couple of games, and then there's the drop. We've seen it. Well, some players don't come back the same, and we've seen that, haven't we? But no, I think overall, I think he had a good season, didn't he? And obviously the assists, fantastic, and hopefully next season he's gone the Euros with France as well, isn't he? So he'd be delighted with that, and then obviously, hopefully, we'll see the best of him next season. Moving on, Mason Holgate. This is going to be an interesting conversation. We sat here 12 months ago and bigged him up. I know he'd finished the season injured, hadn't he? Got injured at Spurs and then came back against Villa and went off injured. And then he had a good season for Everton, and we talked about the possibility that he was our number one centre-back at the time. Possible captain material, because I thought he'd had a really good season. And yet, this season, it's not really been the same. He's played 35 games, started 32. He's got 1 goal at Leicester, 12 clean sheets while he's been in the team. He's intercepting 1.3 passes per game, tackles 2 a game, clearances 2.9, and but he's made 2 errors leading to goals.
I think, listen, the way he got injured in that game against Preston pre-season was
almost like the precursor for the season.
It was like the
indication.
It was the indication of what kind of season he was going to have. You know, he gets caught in possession, and then trying to be too clever, not concentrating on the game, and then goes to recovery tackle, gets injured, he's out for 10 weeks, and he never quite, you know, recovered from that again, because that's. Don't forget, these players never had a pre-season. They were sort of relying on the fitness that they built up at the back end of last season. He comes back, and we've already got players established, and you know.
And we bought Ben Godfrey because of it.
And he found himself at right back. And don't get me wrong, at right back he did well. It started to just suffer later on. As it went on, it was like he started getting bored. He started not fully doing that job properly. And then it's centre back. Some games he'd look all right, and then other games he'd look abject. And like again, concentration. It's not about just becoming a professional footballer and signing a deal and all that kind of thing. It's what you do in the games that makes you that really make you a player. You watch Ben Godfrey this season. I'm going to come on to him, but progression gone one way. And with Mason, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. He never quite finds that consistency for one reason or another, whether it's an injury or whatever. But I do think the biggest indicator was when the manager put him at right back, as in to say, well, you're not one of my best centre-backs. And I know that come out of necessity, but he's been in and out, and the manager when he first came in really fancied Mason Holgate, really liked him. And you could tell this season the manager started to waver on that, and I think, you know, if a good offer came in for him, I think I might take it, because I look at his age now, he's not a young lad anymore. He's coming to the middle part of his career where he has to be steady.
He'd expect himself to be established somewhere now, wouldn't he? 24.
Maybe that's his problem that he expects. I put most of these problems down to himself, that he hasn't settled down. He came back from his loan at West Brom, and he really did. That was really the catalyst for, like, I want to play football. But he's got this confident, cocky side that he's not, for me, harnessing correctly. It's a real asset, having confidence and having a little bit of arrogance. But if you don't harness it the right way, it can get away from you, and it can manifest itself in the wrong way. just do your job.
Yeah.
Do your job.
Yeah.
Be steady. Be steady. Play 25 games in a row where you're just steady and you're getting on with it. And you don't have to be amazing. You don't have to do Cruyff turns. You just have to be a defender. And we were talking about this in another conversation, and it's like, he's got a touch of the John Stones this season. Where John Stones has found the real John Stones. Yeah. Mason Holgate, we used to always talk about and say, he could defend, but he also had a little touch of class. This season, he can't defend and he hasn't shown much class. So
the Villa game summed it up, didn't it? The other week, big game, and he makes that error. Ollie Watkins doesn't give him a second. You're 1-0 down. Obviously, one of the two errors that have led to goals. So I think he's a good player. I still think, I still feel like he might be a better defensive midfield player, which probably says it all about how he's defended this season. There's something in there, but like you said, if you can't, at 24, if you still haven't got it in, and I don't mean got it as in he has ability-wise, because I think he's got the attributes. I think he's quite quick. He's not lightning, but he's quite quick. He's good on the ball. He likes to tackle. I like the fact he's got that little bit of arrogance about him. But if he's still not steady and settled at 24 as a centre-back, it's uphill for him there, isn't it?
That's it. I think he's got concentration issues, if I'm being honest with you. The worst thing about the Villa goal the other day wasn't necessarily the mistake he made that led to the goal. It was the fact he made the same mistake 2 minutes earlier and didn't learn from it. He didn't think, oh, I've got away with one there, I won't do that again. He'd done the same thing 2 minutes later. And I think I agree with Ped. I think he does come across as quite a cocky, arrogant sort of player and an arrogant sort of member of the squad, but he's not using that to his advantage. He's sort of I think about Mason, and I think is he a type of arrogant player that does he think he's the world of himself, or is that like a front to cover? I was going to say actually, I'm a bit like conscious about what I am.
Like Pickford,
like Jordan Pickford had the same,
trying to force, like, exactly. I don't care, I'm boss.
That's it. But does he think that, or does he just think if I portray this, then people will believe it, when really you can see in his performances he doesn't think he's boss, because he doesn't do what he's supposed to do. He doesn't do the basics. He does the hard things.
You've got to have a little bit of. You got to be a little bit knowing as well. Like you just mentioned there, the Ollie Watkins thing. It's like, some days, as a defender, you've got to go, you know what, this fella's good. Yeah. This fella's got the better of me.
He's not going to leave me alone.
So I'm not going to do anything that gives this fella a chance. And I know you've got to, like, a lot of it is in your head. We talked about John Pickford. A lot of it is in your head. Like, it's about projecting, about how good you are and fronting and all that kind of thing. And sometimes that covers up the issues. But if you're not willing to face up to what the issues are, you know who else he reminds me of? Go on. Reminds me of Ross Barkley.
Yeah.
He reminds me of Ross Barkley.
Attributes
he's got that, he's got it, but he can't put it all together because he hasn't quite worked out what's not working. Yeah. Do you know what I mean with Ross? Ross was a good player and he's a good player, but he can't put it together, and he's also not. He hasn't grown up, and we've seen that quite recently. Yeah. He's not grown up enough to almost face what he's doing wrong. And sometimes that happens when the club turn around to you and go, we don't want you anymore. And you have to go somewhere else. And I don't want that to happen, but I almost feel like we better get it sorted.
Do you think it's worse this year because there's no crowding? So, therefore, do you think he slips into that?
Maybe.
This is just like a training thing. You know, if we were there, say like we were in the crowd and he'd done the thing with Watkins 2 minutes earlier and everyone's going on his back, he's less likely to do that again.
Sheffield United as well, and I know there's no crowd there, but what I mean is that's over-egging how good you are. And I think when he went to right back, I think he had to concentrate on his game, and I think it really helped being just.
But even then, he's got a bit bored with it.
But he got bored of it. Seen against Leeds. Jesus, Leeds away. There was about 3 or 4 opportunities where he was just like getting the ball and just going, do you know what? I fancy doing a no-look pass here, lads. And you're like, what? Yeah, I've mastered this position now. And I think there is a little bit of like that, like him. It's like, I'll just Cruyff it and see what happens. Why not? It's like
Fulham at home, he tried that no-look pass and give it straight to him, didn't he? And
it's like, no.
Just do the basics.
Just do the basics, right?
Be a good defender.
Let your game build up again.
Maybe he needs to mature.
No,
but he's got it. I like him, but he's 24, and we're talking about a fella there who we'll discuss in a minute. Who, listen, and he's only had one season with us, Godfrey, and it might, hopefully it won't change, but you never. But you've got to get to that stage where you're mature enough to go. I just, instead of being a flashy centre back, I'm just going to be a good centre back who defends. Yeah. And then if I can get away with the odd Cruyff, I will, but I won't do it for the sake of it. You do that when you've got cover and you might have to. I've said it before, I still think that he's more suited to midfield for the simple reason that I look at our centre-backs. I look at centre-backs now. The reason why I thought he might get away with it is, and I've said this to you before, there's less and less centre-forwards like Chris Wood around at Burnley who are big and strong. But even when they're not big and strong, they're still strong. Yeah. So I don't know whether he wants to come over the top of people and win headers and stuff. Whereas I think he's got the physical attributes, I think, to play in a six. It's whether he's disciplined enough, and I don't know.
I think at times, though, he also needs someone next to him who's strong to pull him into line. Yeah. And I think when he plays with Michael Keane, I think you're just a disaster.
Well, we'll talk about Keane in a minute, but when you were talking about Keane before, Holgate before, it was like you were talking about Michael Keane. It sounded like you were talking about Michael Keane.
The same conversation.
I don't know. Well, I wouldn't quite go that far.
No, but what I mean is some of the attributes of what I meant was the one step forward, two step back comment you made. Like Michael Keane seemed to get on this run and you go, oh, look at him, he's brilliant. Of course he should be playing for England. And then 2 games later, you're going, yeah, if a big comes in, we'll sell him. But
well, last week summed up Michael Keane, didn't it? Great against Wolves and absolutely traumatic against Man City.
There you go. So Holgate, needs to do better, I think. Yeah. He's definitely a player in there, but he's had good spells.
Fourth choice centre-back at 24, and if you got a £15 million bid, would you sell him? I'd sell him.
I think the way we're going to have to do business this summer, then you probably would have to look at it, because we are going to need players to go out to bring in what we need, and sometimes it's a case of going, right, if a bid comes in for any of our centre-backs, bar Ben Godfrey, you've got to seriously look at it and then go, we've also got Jared Brantwaite.
If you've got good targets.
Good targets, yeah. Don't do it for the sake of, don't get rid of him to bring in a 30-year-old journeyman centre-back from Italy. I'm not talking about Koulibaly. I just mean there's others like Maksimovic who is a bit hit and miss himself. It's like, I'd rather have him. Because that he can do a couple. Well, also, but he can do 3 positions for you. He can play right back, he can play centre midfield as well if need be. But if someone comes in with a bid, you might have to look at it and go, maybe, we'll see. Sheamus Coleman, our captain, who has played 31 games for us this season. He's going to be 33 later this year, started 22 of them. Assists 3, 6 clean sheets when he's been in the team, averaging 0.5 interceptions per game, 1.6 tackles per game, 1.3 clearances per game, and he's made no errors leading to goals. Sheamus Coleman, Ped.
Biggest compliment I can say about Sheamus Coleman is, as like I've said before, is the team never quite recovered from when he got the injury. It never found someone else, so there isn't anyone else who could play that role that would allow James Rodriguez to drift in field. I mean, we've seen it the first game he missed against when he, first game he missed from the start with Southampton. Ben Godfrey played there, and Ben Godfrey didn't know where he was coming or going. No. He had James Rodriguez in front of him, who wasn't quite fit, and they just destroyed us on that side. He absolutely destroyed us on that side, and from then on, we never ever looked comfortable playing that formation ever again this season. So strange.
He'd already rushed them back before that.
And then, he come back a couple other times, and it was interesting. We never really played that way again properly. Yeah. Because obviously then not long after that, Dean went out injured.
The only one who kind of done anything like it was Iwobi, and that was for a game and a half or something, and then it went, didn't it?
So we never quite looked comfortable after that, and I think that shows what Sheamus Coleman. Listen, the fella is an absolute warrior. Yeah. He'll run all day for you. We know what he's like. It's just that age has caught up with him, and we haven't replaced him, and that's a problem for the club. And if they don't replace him this summer, Jesus Christ, we've got real problems on our hands, because it's the most glaring, obvious, open position that we need to sort. But when he played, listen, he is what he is. He's 32. He's hit and miss. Some games you look great. Some games you look absolutely terrible. Some games you run through a brick wall for you.
Fantastic. You know, at Anfield.
You know, when he's got the bit between his teeth at Anfield, he was given a role to do, and he did it to the T, and it helped us win the game. And he's done that in other games. And again, it's a case of, you know, he's played some games in a row and then run out of steam, and you could see it. And listen, I would never have a go with him for that, because he'd be the first one, you know, to sit there and go, I want to play,
yeah.
and
even with
knows,
leg, yeah.
You know, knows when he's done, when he's played well, when he hasn't played well. But application, you can't fault it. And if you had more players like him in the dressing room, then you'd win.
You'd be in a good position.
More of those closer games than maybe we'd lost. But it's just a sad fact, and that he's come to the stage of his career now where he really should just be a squad member, come on and do a job for you, play the odd game for you, like Leighton Baines did in his last season when Dean come in, when we had that replacement. So can't fault him for, you know, and hopefully next season he's replaced. That's all.
But a good season overall, would you say, for Sheamus?
Listen, if you're missing him, if you're missing that player, then for me he's done what we needed him to do. I think, yeah.
No, I kind of agree. I think the biggest worry for me is he's still our best right winger, and he's our right. That's a worry, isn't it? Because I know, listen, James, I don't class him as a winger, but what I mean is if James isn't there, there's nobody else like Sheamus who's going to run up and down. Iwobi doesn't do it. Bernard never done it. You know, so I mean, how have you found Sheamus Coleman this season?
Yeah, I think he's had a good season, isn't he? He is what he is at the moment, Sheamus Coleman, and it is unfortunate, and age and fitness gets the better of him, and we know that Sheamus probably should have been replaced last summer. To be honest, we should have already had a new right back to come in, and you know, Sheamus to come in and out, and this new right back could play the majority of the season, but we haven't had that, and we've relied heavily on Sheamus Coleman, and he works hard, he battles, he gives it 110%. Sometimes he'll look absolutely fantastic, other times he'll get rings around him, but that's because, again, of his age, and realistically he shouldn't really be in there we shouldn't be relying on him. It shouldn't be, when Sheamus Coleman back, it should be Sheamus as a backup, and if he's on the bench, great, he can come on, if he's starting, great, but we've got X, Y or Z to come on and replace him, but we haven't got that. But when he's been there, he's worked hard, he's battled, you see his stats there, 3 assists, 6 clean sheets. Sheamus Coleman's a fantastic servant of Everton Football Club, isn't he? I love Sheamus, and I know we all do, and look, I'm not saying I want him to leave the football club, but as Ped said, he can't be starting games. We can't be relying on him next season. We absolutely can't be relying on him. But he could still offer us something off the bench. He could still offer us something in the odd game where, you know, we need that bit of grit and we need that bit of determination, because he's got that, and he's shown that throughout his entire Everton career. But he's coming to the end now, isn't he? And that's clear to see.
Yeah, he definitely is coming to the end. But I still think 20 minutes coming off the bench, you're not unhappy if it's Sheamus, because you know he's gonna come on and start having a go at the opposition, which he doesn't really do when he starts. But when he comes on as a sub, he does have a cob on, doesn't he? Yeah. He come on against Crystal Palace and was just having a go at Guata straight away, as if like, what's happened here? Just like in his face.
He should be involved in maybe 15 games a season, where you know you're going to get everything out of him.
Carabao Cup games and stuff.
Manage him better.
Because he's still effective.
I mean, I don't know how many videos we have to say in them. We have to start managing these players, and the only way you can't, you know, you're asking players who've got injuries or who are older players to play in more games than they should be, and that's a sad indictment of the squad and how bad it is. It really is.
Because you think, we will move on now, but because this is levelled at Carlo Ancelotti. Doesn't trust any younger players. Do you think it is a lack of trust, or do you actually just think he looks at them in training and just goes, he's 33 and yet he's still better.
A bit of both.
He's better than any of these.
And we know there's proof because of Anthony Gordon. We really do. Anthony Gordon, he screams at him. I've heard it myself. Yeah.
But he did give him a go.
He gave him a go, but he gave him a go because obviously he looked all right at the end of last season. But he's brought him into the team, and he asks him to be tactically aware, and disciplined, and he isn't, and he knows if he sells Sheamus Coleman to do a job, he'll do it. Yeah. And it's like, if you do the job, then we don't have to worry about those other things because you've done the job.
So it's not necessarily age for you; it's more whether they can cope with the awareness.
The age factor comes from experience and knowing that football is not just about running around and taking people on. It's about getting back and doing your job and protecting people. It's got to be part of it. This is where this is part of, I think, one of the things Everton seem to really struggle with young players is getting them set up tactically ready. I know it's difficult because the under-23s is garbage, really is garbage. And where else do we have the ability to do it? You know, the learning. You know, we send them on loan and half of them don't play, or half of them have picked up so many bad habits that they're not ready for that. And we've seen
that might be down to tactical low,
because
they don't know how to do it.
So what are we doing? What's happening below where players are not tactically switched on enough? And I think that is one of the things that is worrying is that young players don't seem to be able to break through because they don't seem to be tactically ready.
That's definitely something that we have to look at. Moving on, we come to Michael Keane. 41 games played, started 39 of them, scored 4 goals this season in all competitions, 11 clean sheets, interceptions 1.5 a game, tackles 0.8, clearances 4.5 a game, not a single error leading to a goal. Michael Keane, Cam, is someone that I don't think he splits opinion, but
no, he doesn't split.
I don't think he splits it because I think a lot of people don't trust him. I think he has spells where he looks excellent, Michael Keane, and you go, yeah, he's cracked it. Really good defender. That might be because it's a low block, but whatever. But he's good. But then other times, like we saw at Man City at the weekend, he'll do stupid things and we end up conceding goals. So what's been your take on Michael Keane?
Well, I said before, Michael Keane was summed up in this last week of football. Wednesday he was absolutely excellent against Wolves. He dealt with everything in the air, everything on the floor. He was commanding, he was comfortable. And 3 days later on Sunday against Manchester City, and I know it's Manchester City and they're the best team in the world, etc., but even just the basic things, he was everywhere. He allowed Aguero, who's about 4'2", to jump up and score a header without any pressure on him. And it's that inconsistency that Michael Keane, let's be honest, has always had since he's been at Everton. He's had really good spells, he's had really bad spells. He's never had one season where he's been really good for the entirety of the season. And it's that inconsistency that leads fans to the opinion that you can't trust him. You can't rely on a player who you don't know whether one day, you could have Michael Keane in on a Wednesday and then be absolutely brilliant, and then you put him in on the Saturday and you think, well, he's been brilliant on the Wednesday, and he makes 2 errors that lead to goals. I mean, I don't really know how that errors leading to goals has become none. It's obviously a very niche stat because I can think of about 4 off the top of my head that he's made that have led to goals, one being against Manchester City the other day. But again, it's a difficult one because he can be so good, but he can also be so bad. And I think he's a confidence player, Michael Keane. And as Ped said last week, you can't really have those players. You can't rely on those players. They can be part of the squad. He can come in as and when, but you can't be having a player in every week who you don't know if he's going to be great or if he's going to be poor. And he does suit certain styles. The low block he suits perfectly. He come from Burnley. That's how they play. But again, it's that inconsistency that I think has given Michael Keane a struggle this season, as for the last 2 or 3 seasons at Everton.
Yeah, I think that's a fair sum up. I know you're going to be a little bit harsher maybe, but Michael Keane, what have you made of him this season?
He's not for me.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, just as a general speaking, what do you think? Do you think Cam's right? Just too inconsistent. I know you are of the opinion, and you're right, because you can physically see it. You can see the confidence drain out of his body, and I don't think I've seen that so glaringly obvious from miles away when you see it happen to him. How all of a sudden he's just gone in a game.
But you know what? Like this season, he's had some really, really good games, and he's had some really, really terrible games.
Yeah,
and I just can't see the point. It's been the same since he came. I can't be doing confidence plays. I just don't get it. I don't even know how to get to the level. I really don't. It's clear he's a good footballer, but I wonder whether if you did get to any kind of meaningful game in a season or a cup final, I think what weight he would be, because He just mentally seems to fall apart all the time when something happens.
If it doesn't go right for him.
If it does, it's not even if it goes right for him. It doesn't have to be. It just seems to be like if he makes a mistake, it falls to bits. It's not even like the mistakes come because he felt a bit. It's like he falls to bits after he's made the mistake. And I would just be looking to get rid of him this summer. I really would. And I know he can be the nicest fella in the world and all this, but he's not for me. He never really has been for me because I just can't see how you can cope with. I honestly don't think he's a very good defender either. I don't think he. When I say that, Yerry Mina's like a ball magnet. Right, he's always in the right place at the right time for when the ball's coming. I've said it from day one. I don't think he smells danger as a defender. I don't think he sees danger as a defender. I think he does all the basic things, but I don't think he fully quite gets. I think like the Aguero goal, his second on Sunday was a prime thing of that. How many times have we seen Michael Keane lose the flight of the ball? Just like not getting it. Where Yerry Mina always seems to be in the right place at the right time because he understands it. They're going back to like the Man United game at home, the defeat, when like crosses into the box and because for me one of his big problems is that when you stick him next to a like a Holgate or someone like that, you want him to be the experienced defender who dominates, who screams and shouts, who pulls everyone else in line. I don't see that with him.
Is that any so it's no real coincidence that when he plays with Yerry Mina,
of course,
he's good because them two together they're the best partnership.
Everyone looks better with Yerry Mina because Yerry Mina is a dominant centre back, and he'll make sure he'll make sure he lets the other person know, but he'll make sure he gets to the right place. I just think he's a very sellable asset. He's got 4 years left on a contract, and I think
still at a good age as well.
28.
27, 28.
Listen, the club might think that they're the asset you need to keep him. But for me, if we want to move forward, one of the positions that actually we really do need someone is another centre back, like a really good, talented centre back. Yeah. And if Michael Keane could go out the door and we bring someone in, then I'd do it in a heartbeat. I really would, because for me, I don't see his level being consistent enough. I really don't. And on his day, sometimes he looks really good as well, though. So
he's unreliable, and you can't really have unreliable players, can you? Certainly not a squad full of them, which is what we've got.
I don't think that's because of his play. Don't even think it's because of the way he plays either, though. It's not. It is fully down to confidence. It's confidence all the time with them. You're almost waiting for that moment for it to ebb away. Like, it's weird. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. I'm not a footballer.
It's the equivalent of taking a whitey. You see someone just feel sick and go, whoa, and you think they're gonna throw up. But that's what he does in the game. He seems to be in control. But he'll give something away, and then his head seems to go. And instead of, I think in football at that level, you've got to
pick yourself back up.
You've got to just go, it's gone.
Yeah.
The best players are able to go, right, that's gone now. I've carry on, all right, it's a goal, but I've got to get me. And like I've seen him have marvellous games. Anfield this year, he was brilliant. Him and Mina were fantastic, and him and Mina are probably our best partnership still at the moment. I think goals they concede when they're together proves that they are the best partnership. The problem is we want to play higher up the pitch if we're going to be a more progressive team. So, but the manager likes him, and I'm like, listen, I think he's a good defender, but I do agree with what you're saying. It's a bit like what we were saying in the video when we talked about the new signings with Hammers. You can't build a team around a fella that's not going to, you can't guarantee he's going to play. Yeah. I don't know whether you can build a defence around a centre-back. You don't know how they're going to perform.
It just shows the drop-off, though, that he was, you go back maybe 4 months ago, he was playing for England, and now he can't get in a 33-man squad, and there's some dross centre-backs in there.
Not just...
That they obviously feel like they can't rely on him either, that they can't...
You pick him for games where it kind of... He's in the squad earlier on where he can correct it, but at finals, it's almost like, don't know whether we trust you. And that's an issue, isn't it? Because he really should have been, for me, I've said before, on his day, I think he's better than Maguire, on his day. But Harry Maguire, you could probably go, well, Harry Maguire will probably play 7 out of 10 most weeks, where Michael Keane will be a 9 and then a 4. Yeah. And that's maybe Southgate looks at the likes of me. I mean, Cody. But then maybe Conor Cody, they know that if
mentally might
that
just
mentally
be a tougher.
might be strong.
Yeah.
That's probably why Godfrey's in there. They'll have a look at him at close quarters. But I think in general he's obviously been all right because the defence has been good.
He's had an up and down season.
Yeah.
It's just that I just don't think you can rely on him. And I think if that means he's a sellable asset, sell him.
It's a bit of a pity because he you know, you want someone a dominating one, don't you? Yerry Mina, 29 games, and this might be where the conversation goes. 27 he started, 3 goals, had 6 clean sheets, 1 interception per game, 0.9 tackles per game, 4.5 clearances, errors leading to goals, 1. And I can't remember off the top of my head what that error was, but there you go. Yerry Mina, I mean, I guess, you know, the 29 games is the first thing that sticks right out when we've had Michael Keane on 41 games, we've got Yerry Mina.
I think that's been the... I think Yerry Mina's proved to a lot of people this season that he's our best defender. Easily our best defender. But the game's just the problem. And it's just so annoying because he gets injured in such random circumstances, overstretching when he's desperate to clear the ball out. I mean, I remember the one at Wolves. I think he was stretching because someone else had made a mistake, and he's having to clear it up, and he overstretches and he has to go off. You know, in a game that we're desperate to win, and it is that is the problem again, because I think he's a really good defender. I think, you know, I've used the phrase ball magnet because he's always seems to be in the right place. When that ball comes into the box, he's either there with his head or his body, gets his body in the way. He's got a little bit of nastiness. He loves talking to centre forwards, trying to wind them up. You know, I think he's good with his feet. He's been, you know, a lot of people like he's Bambi on ice. Well, he's not. No. He's not. I think he's adjusted his position so he doesn't get caught out for pace a lot of the time. I think there has been moments. I think the one at Newcastle for their second goal, I think he went too tight, he went too high and too tight. There are moments where, you know, he's not the perfect defender, but I certainly think he's our best centre back, and it's just those injuries. They seem to be creeping in at the wrong time. And how do you build a partnership? Because I think him and Godfrey would be our best partnership. I think they've got a bit of everything in there. You've got Godfrey to deal with the pace side of things, and him to deal with the aerial side of things, and also him, you know, talking to Godfrey and pulling him through. But it's just the injuries are just a problem, and it'll be interesting.
At 27, you're worrying.
Well, he's 2 years left on a contract now. You've got to make a decision, like we did with Keane last season. You've got to make that decision. Do you give him the contract and then maybe see what happens? And because, I mean, let's be honest, you could sell him next season with 4 years left. But you have to do something. You have to make that decision this summer. So they've got a decision to make, whether they go, well, you know what, if we get rid of him and actually we've got someone ready to come in. I don't know. I just do think he's a good defender, and he showed that this season.
Definitely. I mean, he is better than people give him credit for, isn't he? And people like to say that, like Ped just said, he's Bambi on ice, or he's not this, or he's not that. And yet the reality of a lot of that is it's nonsense, because he is all of those things. He's a good defender. He's not slow, great in the air, likes to get blocks in. And he's not always injured, but the injuries have creeped up this year.
He's our best centre-half, hasn't he? You've seen that even recently, the West Ham game. Look at how much better we performed defensively than the game against Villa, or the game against City the other day. He's exceptional, a little bit like his Colombian teammate. He's that important to us, but you know, sometimes you get a Yerry Mina like last week where Carlo's saying, oh yeah, everybody's fit on the Friday, and we get to the Sunday and he's nowhere to be seen. No, he's a complete ball magnet. He smells the danger brilliantly every time a ball comes in, whether it's with his feet, whether it's with his back, whether it's with his head, whether it's with his body, it's going out and he's getting rid of it. You know, he sniffs the challenges as well. He's straight into challenges, and I think he's that type of defender that isn't afraid to rough up the centre forward. He done it against West Ham first 5 minutes. He straight into the back of Antonio, and he put Antonio over, and he stood up as if to say, who was that? And he looked at him and went, well, probably don't want that actually. I don't want to get near him. But nobody else does that. Everybody, Michael Keane's far too nice. He doesn't want to hurt. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Shakes his hands, doesn't want to hurt the centre forward. Mason, he's got a little bit of that, but isn't good enough to really back it up. And Ben Godfrey just gets on with what he does, whereas Yerry Mina isn't afraid to go through the back of a centre forward. I actually think he'd have been very good in the City game, because he'd have went straight in on Aguero as soon as he come on and went, this is a testimonial game, I don't care, mate, do you want to play on Saturday?
That's you out the Copa America, mate.
Yeah, that's it. He'd have gone straight through him, but his injuries are a real big issue, and he does it to himself a lot of times, because he's making up for other people's mistakes.
I remember him at Vardy at Leicester.
Yeah.
He had Vardy off the game. Vardy was, because he was chatting and he was in his ear, and you seen that thing where Vardy was looking at him just to say...
Because he probably didn't have a clue what he was saying.
Yeah, but he kept looking at him, and Mina's laughing, and you could see him going, you'll have had that in footy where someone's, a big fella's just decided to try and put you off your game.
It's unnerving.
And it is, and they're following you and they're saying things, and it's in your ear, and you're going, you're all right, and I'm going to get, next time you do that, I'm going to crunch you. Yeah. Trying to wind you up. And you see him doing it to centre forwards, and it's horrible. And Michael Keane's probably like, oh,
sorry, mate.
What did you watch, that Netflix documentary and all that, or Holgate,
Money Heist.
He's a rough centre-half who wants to battle, wants to fight, wants to get in people's faces, wants to make it hard.
American, they're always looking for the yank, they're always looking for the small percentages.
He's good. We had that with Romero Funes Mori, but he wasn't very good. He was battling, but he was awful at footy, whereas Yerry Mina...
He should have played up front for us, Funes Mori.
Yeah, he loved the free kick, didn't he? He thought he was a striker, let's be honest.
Yeah, he did think he was a striker.
Whereas Yerry Mina's a brilliant defender, but has got all of that as well, and it's so... Maybe he wouldn't be as much of a miss if we had other centre-backs that had that bit of a streak about them, but we don't. He's the only one that's got that, and not only his defensive work, but like I said, he's a battler, he works hard, and most of his injuries come from overstretching, or come from trying to make up for a mistake somebody else has made. And a decision does need to be made, and I'm be sad to see him go, because he's for me, like I said, take Godfrey out the equation, because he's only new. He's much better than Keane and Holgate, much better than Keane and Holgate.
And a real goal threat in the other penalty.
That's it.
Defensively as well.
So we'll have to see. But no, I think he's been brilliant this season when he's played.
Yeah, that's a problem, isn't it? Is that if we would have had him for the majority of the games, you wonder what would have happened. We might have been higher up, And
we wouldn't have lost a certain amount of the stupid games we've lost. Put it that way.
Yeah, agreed. And then obviously the final one of this is the man we've both mentioned. You've both mentioned at times. Ben Godfrey, 36 games played this season, started 34 of them, 2 assists, 11 clean sheets, interceptions 1.1 a game, tackles 1.8 a game, clearances 3.5 a game, and errors leading to goals 0. Not a bad opening season.
No, good first season. No, he's been brilliant, hasn't he? He's been a real bonus for us this season. As he and us have tried to figure out what his best assets are and where he's best playing. He's played right back, he's played left back, he's played centre back, and he's done a job in all of them. And I think he will become our number one centre back. Well, not a number one centre back, one of our number one centre backs in a pairing. Yeah. And whether that be with Yerry Mina or a new centre back, then his pace, his recovery pace, getting the ball and going forward, his attitude, his tackling. He's a bit rough around the edges. His passing still needs to be worked on. When the ball bounces him in the box off a corner, he needs to react a little bit quicker, because he could have had about 7 goals.
He could have, yeah.
But I think fans have really latched onto him, because he just shows what we all want, and he's now the blueprint almost. He's created the blueprint of what we want as a player. A player you can bring in from a lower league side or a side, go on the up, and he wants it. And he's been put in the 33 provisional man squad for the England. Whether he goes to the Euros, I don't know. We as Evertonians, we're just like, it's mad if they don't, because he can play 3 different positions. Yeah. And he does give you something I don't see in many England players.
There's no pace in that back foot.
No, but he's also got that little bit of, he's got devilment in as well. You can see that in his face when he goes in for the tackles. He's an old-fashioned player that we all love. And we love, there's the old song, we all dream of a team of, well, it would be Ben Godfrey's for us, wouldn't it? Because he's been exceptional. Committed. So it's been a great season, especially for someone that came out of nowhere. Yeah. Came out of absolute nowhere. We were all a little bit annoyed last summer that we never got Gabriel. Or Everton seemed to walk away from that when that team stitched up. But on reflection, I'd rather have Ben Godfrey than Gabriel by a million miles.
Me too. Anything to add, mate?
Absolutely, spot on. Again, there was very little expectation when he come in. He come in for a big price tag, but it was almost as if, right, he'll bed in this season. He might be in and out. He might play a few games, but for the majority of it, he'll be sort of in the background. And then maybe next season, meaning the one coming up, will be his season where he really shines in the first team. But through injury and through necessity, he was thrown straight in, and you know he's been absolutely excellent. He's everything that we need to sign this summer: young, quick, versatile, mobile, big, hungry, physical, battles, isn't afraid to throw a challenge in, and he's got the right attitude ultimately. He was told, you know, we got to December or November, December, Luca Dean picked up an injury and he went, yeah, I'll go there, I'll play there. Can't guarantee I'll get as many assists, but I'll battle, I'll work hard and I'll do a solid job. And he was absolutely excellent at left back for the time that he was there, to the point, like I said before, where when Luca Dean returned, everyone was going, well, can we maybe have Luca Dean and Ben Godfrey on the same side, because Ben's been that great. For me, he's been signing of the season by a long stretch because of his consistency, no injuries, and his, you know, the fact that he's come in and he's a battler, he's physical. When he goes on them runs, he's like an absolute steam train. Nobody can keep up with him. And has he got areas to improve on? Of course he has, but he's 22 years old. You know, he's the same age as me, and look at the size difference between me and Ben Godfrey. You'd think he was me dad. But no, he's excellent, and he will only get better, and he is the profile, the prototype of the player that we need to go and sign 3, 4, 5 more of Ben Godfrey's in the summer.
Yeah, totally agree. I remember people bemoaning the fact we'd spent 20 million on a centre back we didn't need in October when we bought him, but how wrong he proved those people, and he's been fantastic. And you're absolutely right. Both of you have said that it's the type of player that Everton need to be signing this summer. Young, great athlete.
Absolutely. And
we haven't got enough of them, so yeah. Fantastic. There you go. That is our review of Everton's defence. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Who's been the performer of the season defensively for Everton? Who do you want to see moved on? Is there any names out there you'd like to see come in to that back four? Big thanks to Cam. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and if you want more videos, including daily live videos, join us on Patreon. See you later.